Micic was that guy, man. Micic was that dude. They called him the Luka Doncic of EuroLeague veterans. I don't even know how you come up with a name like that. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Chipoverseas, aka the NBA Outsider. Today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about Micic, aka Vasilije Micic. Excuse me if I'm pronouncing this name incorrectly, but Micic. Micic just made headlines by signing a 14 million euro deal to play ball in the EuroLeague. For a note, this is the third highest salary in EuroLeague history. He's only behind Josh Childress, which is an ex-NBA player, one of the better first really good American guys to come overseas and get a huge deal. Josh Childress. I always pay respect to Josh because he paved the way in a lot of ways. And Micic. Micic is an ex-Bulls legend. Played with D Rose in those years when they were competing with Miami for the Eastern Conference Finals pretty much every season. And he was a great NBA player. And he kind of came over towards the end of his prime. So that $5.5 million that he made overseas in Barcelona was more than justified. But now Micic stands at the top of that list at number 3. And so when you first see this contract, you might be confused if you're an NBA fan, especially because when he was in Charlotte and OKC, he had decent games. You know, you knew his name, you knew he was in rotation, but you didn't really see somebody that warranted that price tag. So now this video answers the question, how good is Micic overseas? I'll tell you. Vasilije Micic is a Serbian guard. He stands at about 6'5", 6'6". From 2002 to 2006, he played his formative years of ball at OKK Belgrade, which is one of the top Belgrade-based youth programs. It actually is the same program that Nikola Topic played for, and if you follow this channel, you know that I played against Topic when he played for this team. If you don't follow the channel, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button right now. But Micic played with Belgrade until 2006, and then in 2006, he signed with Red Star. Red Star is one of the bigger clubs in Europe. If you've never heard of the rivalry between Partizan and Red Star, yeah, you really need to hit that follow button. Then in 2007, he joined FMP, also another youth development club that has a lot of NBA players that came from there. And then he officially went pro in 2010 when he signed with Mega. You might have heard of Mega from Jokic. That's the club that he came from before he went to the NBA. Nikola Jokic, hopefully you've heard of him. Then in 2012, he took his team from the ABA 2 League, the Adriatic Basketball Association 2, to the ABA 1 with none other than Boban Marjanovic. Micic was actually the 52nd pick in the 2014 NBA draft by the Philadelphia 76ers. Around that time, 76ers were just starting their process. He was pretty much a drafting stash. He made his rounds overseas in the EuroLeague. That's where we're going to pick up this story. In 2017, he signed a 2-year deal in Žalgiris, one of the most historic clubs to come from Lithuania. His first season in the EuroLeague, he averaged 7.7 points, 4.2 assists, and 2.2 rebounds. He was pretty good, don't get me wrong. You saw the flashes of a dynamic guard because he averaged almost half his point total in assists. So he was pretty much the double threat. You know, he could score on you and he could set his teammates up perfectly. He excelled in the pick and roll from a very early age. So at this time, he was showing flashes of being a legitimate distributor. And that's one of the biggest differences between him overseas versus him in the NBA. Overseas, the ball was in his hands so much, and he got those early reps in at Žalgiris. He actually did something at Žalgiris that I didn't see again until he got to the NBA, and we're going to bring that up right now. In Žalgiris, he couldn't always get to the rim. His body wasn't as physically along as it is now. Not saying that he was slow, but he had a little bit more muscle mass, and he had a little bit more fat content on his body, you can tell, because he didn't move as fluid. So on a lot of the times in pick and roll situation, when it was his time to score, he actually would stop and pop at 15 feet. And there was opportunities for him to get to the rim when he wouldn't take it. Whether it was confidence, he didn't feel like he was fast enough to get to the basket, or whether he was just comfortable taking an easy two rather than putting his head down, absorbing that contact and getting all the way to the rim. Who knows? But for whatever reason, Micic never got all the way to the rim when trying to score out of the pick and roll. Actually, the fact that he wasn't getting all the way to the rim made him look slightly like a different player than the one we came to know when he was at his MVP levels overseas. So in 2018, the Anadolu Efes journey began for Micic. He signed a 2-year deal initially with Efes, and he got right off to a hot start. That same season, he led his team to a EuroLeague Final Four, where he lost in the championship game to CSKA Moscow. Over 37 games, he averaged 12 points, 5 rebounds, and still 2.2 rebounds per game. It's very impressive to see a guy half his scoring output with assists because, like I said, dual threat PG. But the ball was in his hand so much. A lot of those drives that I was just mentioning, where he'd stop and pop for a 15-foot pull-up jump shot, he would just put his head down, absorb that contact, and finish through contact even sometimes to get to the basket. And we really started to see a shift in his mentality, in his confidence. What was the difference? Who knows? I think, personally, it's the confidence in his body. He saw the EuroLeague as, once he reached his athletic peak, which was right around that season, 2018, 2019, he saw himself as a little bit faster than the guys, a little bit smarter than the guys, a little bit stronger, especially against the other guards. And he hunted out a lot of mismatches. So when he did take the pick and roll, he was trying to get the big because he's probably just as strong as the big man. And there's no way that they're going to be having the foot speed to stay in front. And that's when he really became a one-on-one player. When you look at Micic's tape, he went one-on-one so much. Not only in the instances where there's 6 seconds left on the shot clock and we just give it to him so he can get a bucket. No, he was creating a lot of things in the middle of action. And they would call action for him to hunt a mismatch and go play one-on-one. He didn't need a pick per se. And if you ask me, he doesn't love taking pick and roll to score. I think he loves to take the pick and roll to hit the big because he excels so much at it. He doesn't want to score in the pick and roll. And if he does score, it's going all the way to the basket. He wants to just create something out of a disadvantage. Because a lot of times you'll see him fake the pick and roll and reject the screen. And out of the rejecting the screen, the defense is in a scramble. Once he gets to the paint, he does a great job. Not a good job. A great job. And this carried over into the NBA as well, of being on balance. Coming to a complete jump stop. Pump fake, ball fake, shot fake, boom, 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 boom. He's putting that ball everywhere before he goes to get an easy finish. So this is when the separation started to happen. Not only was he one of the top European-born guards in the EuroLeague, but he was also separating himself as one of the top overall guards to play in the EuroLeague. In 2019, he signed a 2-year contract extension with Anadolu Efes. He chose to come back for another 2 rather than try for the NBA, which probably he could have done something. Mind you, he was a drafting stash. So he had the opportunity, he had the eyes on him from the NBA talent scouts, from the NBA personnel. And he said, you know what? I'd rather do it here. I'd rather get it done here. And I think that was very important in his journey because look at the decisions that he's making now. He was liked in OKC from what I heard, but he chose to come back to Europe, not only to set the record by signing that lucrative contract. I'm sure that didn't hurt too much. There's a lot of things I would do with an extra $14 million in my bank account. But to kind of collect the flowers, kind of relive the glory of the praise that he would get when he did play in Europe. By the end of the season in 2021, he was just the 4th EuroLeague player of all time to have at least 100 2-pointers, 70 threes, and 100 free throws in one season. He ended up winning EuroLeague MVP. That was also historic because him and his good old buddy Nikola Jokic won MVP of the 2 major leagues in the world because Jokic won MVP of the NBA that year. By the next season, he was up to 18.2 points per game, 4.6 assists, and 2.7 rebounds per game. He also won back-to-back EuroLeague titles with Efes after scoring the game-winning shot in the semifinal against Olympiacos. And in 2023, he would get his shot in the NBA. The stars aligned for him to come over to the States and put on in the NBA. He started with the Oklahoma City Thunder, where they had a very guard-heavy rotation, and the style of basketball that he was used to playing the previous season in Europe, it was completely different by the time he got to OKC. In OKC, he had a limited role, only averaging 3 points and 2 assists. There's not so much I can break down from that time because he wasn't really a rotational guy. But then he got traded to the Hornets, and that was when we could actually see his game. At his time in Charlotte, he averaged 10.8 points per game, 6.2 assists, and 1.8 rebounds on 43% shooting. And here is where I pick back up the 2017 version of Micic, when he knew he wasn't the most athletic guy on the court, and he's pulling up for a lot of these pull-up twos. He did more pull-up twos in Charlotte than I've seen over the course of the last 4 years in the EuroLeague. It seems like every time it was on him to score in the pick and roll, he would stop and pop, stop and pop. And it also was like this rushed pull-up. It wasn't a normal Micic pull-up that we're used to. He's like rushed in the air. I don't know, maybe he was working on his body a lot and he was trying to show that his body was like ready for the NBA level, so he was doing everything faster than he usually does. But every single time he'd pull up for two, he'd be a little bit off balance. It's like a runner leaning forward, and he just never really looked comfortable. In the EuroLeague, when the ball was in his hands for most of the possession, he was able to get the ball out of his hands quick to get it back. We know that's how he likes to play. In the NBA, the ball sticks a little bit more. So when it's with him, it's his turn. And then when he passes it, it's the teammate's turn. I think he struggled a lot with that. Because early on especially, he had a lot of silly turnovers where in Europe, it wouldn't necessarily be a turnover. Like on this play, he's looking to hit Nick Richards and the high post horn spot, but Nick Richards is not looking for the ball. On this play, he's looking for Nick Richards to find the open space in the paint, but Nick Richards goes directly behind his own defender, so Micic throws it to the spot where he thinks he's going to be. So the small plays like these that the numbers didn't really tell the full story. With Micic, you really had to watch the tape to see that he was still kind of stuck in between the transition from NBA to overseas, or overseas to the NBA. So that leads us to now. Going back to the EuroLeague, how does Micic play? How does he approach the game? Does he go back to his old version of himself? Ball dominant, dual threat, gonna get you involved. I'm gonna score my points because you gotta justify that $14 million price tag. Or does he take that more of a passive route? You know what? I did my work already. I'm gonna be more of a facilitator, take a step back from scoring like I did in the NBA, hit my pull-up threes, hit my catch and shoot threes, but let the other guys run the show. I think it'd be interesting to see how he plays it. But one thing's for sure, when he was in Europe, Micic was that guy, man. Micic was that dude. Ain't no way around it. Back-to-back EuroLeague titles, EuroLeague MVPs, Domestic Cup MVPs, Domestic League MVPs, Domestic League scoring titles, Domestic League championships. This guy was him. Unstoppable. They called him the Luka Doncic of EuroLeague veterans. I don't even know how you come up with a name like that, but he had it. He earned it. Put some respect on that name. Vasilije Micic, special player. Even in the NBA, he was a special player. Front offices love that guy. It's just hard to develop and kind of judge a prospect when they're in places like Charlotte and Phoenix in this version of Phoenix. But Micic was that dude. All respect to Micic. I will be covering him this season in the EuroLeague. And if you guys want more coverage like this, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. If you subscribe to me, I subscribe to you. Peace.